You see, it is safe to assume that the United Arab Emirates, that country in the Gulf that is called the UAE, is currently angry at anything and everything around it at this time. Sometimes for obvious reasons, sometimes for not too obvious reasons. Let me explain. Maybe you're the first, victim, the expected receiver of most of the UAE's anger and ire at this time is Iran. Why? Because according to the United Arab Emirates, the UAE suffered the biggest, largest, and most voluminous brunt of Iranian missiles and drones and other, offensive assaults at it of all of the countries that absorbed and took in Iranian missiles and drones in the entirety of the first hot phase of this Iran versus America war. In fact, according to the Emiratis, the UAE not just suffered more attacks via missiles and drones from Iran than Saudi Arabia, than Bahrain, than Kuwait, than Qatar and other Gulf countries. They even insist that the UAE took in by far more attacks from Iran than even Israel, which was the major belligerent why this war was triggered and started in the first instance. They are very angry with Iran because of that. But well, would you blame Iran? Because again, it is from their very territory that America was most comfortable in setting up their offensive capabilities and tools to attack Iran from. And Iran warned before the war started that any country around us that allowed this territory, as a platform for America to attack Iran from, will be attacked as vociferously as Iran suffered from American attacks. That is one, by the way. Number two is that Iran is particularly, you would say, justified too. Because again, in the course of taking out the American raiders that were facilitating the aerial and naval attacks of America against Iran, it may be inadvertently, in an unplanned way, Iran eventually was able to find a way to unlock their weather quagmire. All those should I call it manufactured droughts, all those manufactured deserts that resulted as a consequence, all those extremely low levels of water in the reservoirs, the dams and the aquifers, essentially the desertification of the countries of Iran, the countries of Iraq, some parts of Turkey, and even some parts of Somalia, essentially instantaneously reversed immediately those weather radars. Many of them installed in the United Arab Emirates were taken out by Iran just for the military goal, not knowing that they will also benefit, so to say, in terms of the weather. So again, both sides may be justified, the UAE and Iran. Why are you attacking us? This is why we are attacking you. When it comes to Israel too, despite the fact that the UAE seems to be closer to Israel and America after the first hot phase of the war, trust me, they are not exactly very happy with Israel too. Why? Because it has now been reported that in the course of the war, early into the war, that Israel actually supplied the United Arab Emirates with some of its Iron Dome batteries. In fact, also with some of its experimental ion beam laser anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems. Again, with Israeli military, operators to boot to operate the Iron Dome and Iron Beam systems. Unfortunately, it did not seem to work. They did not seem to work very well in favor of the UAE. Hey, the same multiple Iron Dome systems, Davis Sling systems, RO3, RO2 systems did not even work that much in Israel. Not to talk of expecting junior anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems and even experimental iron beam systems to work for UAE, then during the war. Against America, the UAE is also justifiably angry. Why should they be angry? Because the war was triggered and the war started and continued in the hot phase for close to 40 days. The economy of the UAE was essentially wrecked. Every major pillar of the economy, when it comes to real estate, when it comes to hotel occupancy, when it comes to the fact that they're a major global air hub, when it comes to the fact that they're a major global port, sea hub in terms of the movement of goods in and out the Persian Gulf and other important areas of the world. The oil industry, the gas industry, the aluminum industry, the fertilizer industry, and in fact, the fact that they host most of the headquarters of the American, Israeli, Western tech hubs in the world. You are talking of the TikToks of this world, you are talking of the Oracles, you are talking of the Googles, you are talking of the Amazons, you are talking of these AI companies, the Nvidias, and this essentially the tech power centers, the Westocentric tech power centers. The UAE hosted most, if not all, of the headquarters in the Middle East. Now, everything has essentially been wrecked by Iran in the course of the war. And the UAE is justifiably angry with the US because of that, because they started it in the first instance, particularly after they had been warned. And after the Iranians that vociferously and clearly stated that if you attack us, we take out whatever is good of all your Gulf allies around us. The UAE was so angry at the US of A that they actually sent the central bank governor to talk to the Americans and demand the bailout. Give us some of our petrodollars that we kept with you, despite the fact that the US of A itself is desperately in need of those petrodollars at this time to show up its foreign reserves and to hedge against the 30-something trillion dollar national debt. And the UAE even added a subtle threat, and the threat was that if you do not give us some of our money in the name of the petrodollar bailout, we are going to start selling what is left of our oil to the Chinese and selling same in petro real in a petro yuan instead of petrodollars. That is how much of anger the UAE is expressing, at least subliminally and subtly, to the Americans. Now, to the Saudis, the UAE is very angry. Very angry because we're supposed to be fellow GCC countries. Why did we suffer by far more from Iranian attacks than you did, you Saudi Arabia? Why? Were there some subliminal deals that you did with the Saudis underground that we were not exposed to, that we were not informed of that we did not benefit from? And because of that, the UAE got so angry that very recently they pulled out of OPEC. And in fact, after pulling out of OPEC, there were some rumors around there that they may actually try to pull out of some other organizations where they are involved with the Saudis and where the Saudis lead, including the Organization of Islamic Conference, the OIC, including the Arab League, and including the GCC itself, the Gulf Cooperation Council. That is actually how angry the UAE is at Saudi Arabia, not to talk of other Gulf countries, particularly Qatar, that seem to have done some subliminal negotiations, maybe sometimes in conjunction with this Al Jazeera, which has a lot of media propaganda power. And that is why even those Gulf countries were not affected equally when it comes to the pressure and when it comes to the volume of Iranian attacks, with the UAE taking by far the highest brunt, even bigger than Israel, according to the Emiratis. And that is again the root of the anger of the Emiratis with Iran because of the obvious pressure, military pressure. But again, you cannot blame the Iranians because they took out quite a number of military infrastructure in the UAE, and they was also able to take out the weather radars that has now unlocked their country and several other countries into boom. And then the Israelis for obvious reasons, the other GCC countries for obvious reasons, but even to America, which is the greatest airline. So if you are the UAE at this time, trust me, this is not the best of times for you. They seem to be in a vice. They seem to be, the filling in a sandwich, bread here, bread there, filling in the middle. That filling seems to be increasingly the United Arab Emirates at this time. A very uncomfortable place to be. No wiggle room. You can't push yourself out here. You can't push yourself out there. You now seem to be ensconced in the middle of bigger powers, and they are now trying to struggle their way out, and they are not finding it very funny at all. That is that about the United Arab Emirates and the very uncomfortable situation it is at this time, and why it is lashing out at multiple countries within and around its neighborhood. I hope you fully understand my discussion at this time. Thank you very much. Again, don't forget to subscribe and toggle the notification button on our YouTube so that you can continue to enjoy our interesting geopolitical content. Thank you very much. Have a good day.